Speaking of amazing, you know who's just joining us? From some location somewhere around the world, Mike from around the world.
Pastor Paul, God bless you.
How are you, Mike? God bless you. It's great to talk to you tonight.
Pretty good today. Good to be here. Good to be here.
It's good to be here. It is. It really is. It's a blessing that we're here and we're still able to be on the air and still able to be breathing and still be able to be sharing the good news of Jesus Christ.
The earth is about to endure something, and this is not hopeful. This is not wishful thinking. This is not some tool of rhetoric, right? This is absolute. We're going to have a big problem with our magnetosphere, right? I mean, a big problem. All right,
let's talk. Well, okay, what do you mean?
Just so that folks understand this, without the magnetosphere, we're going to be, many things will be set on fire, right?
Okay.
We're about to undergo a magnetosphere moment where our magnetosphere becomes quite chaotic. Right? Okay. This will happen. This is going to happen right before it totally goes away. So we'll have 10 days without a magnetosphere. Just imagine that for a moment.
No, I mean, won't we get waylaid with radiation if that happens?
Nothing facing the sun will survive. Not one soul better be caught outside. Right? That's going to be bad. Prior to that time, there's going to be chaos in the magnetosphere. And who's going to tell anybody about this? I doubt they can't tell anybody about this because you have folks that understand what that means. We have solar winds that are constantly blowing on the earth. Without a CME, just the standard solar winds, without a magnetosphere, would set everything sunlight touches on fire.
So, I mean, what you just said is just, mind-boggling, okay? So you're saying this webinar, we got a lot of great speakers, of course, and Mike, and your presentation is just, just off the chain, awesome. Talk to us a minute, again. You're saying the sun is going to do something. You're saying our magnetosphere is going to disappear?
That's right.
Is that a pole shift?
Magnetosphere.
What is
That'll be, you know how you've heard people say, well, if the earth has a magnetic shift, it's no big deal. Right? Isn't that what they said?
Yes.
It's just no big deal. It's not a physical flip. It's just a magnetic north will change, this, that, and the other, right? They lied, or they didn't know what they were talking about, right? We're about to go through this process. The process has already started. It's beginning. But there's an alert. There's an actual memo, right? There's a memo. There's a document set. Kind of like an emergency document set. There's a change in infrastructure. What do they call that? It's something like an emergency, but not quite that language, because it's understood that the earth is about to go through that process again, and prior to getting to the point of the actual flip, right? Because the magnetic shielding of the earth will begin to weaken. It'll go chaotic. It'll start to weaken, right? When it totally weakens, it's going to do so for 10 days. It'll disappear for 10 days.
10 days.
And then it will come back, right? Now, the sun is not going to go out in these 10 days.
Okay, so we're going to be inundated then. We have no shield, no protect. Okay,
right.
Okay.
That means a lot of, for example, if a person is outside, it'll be like standing in a microwave if they're outside. We've had examples of this before in the northern regions of the earth, specifically in 2004, 2006, 2007, where people stepped into the missing part of the atmosphere, and within, I think it was 15 seconds, they were cooked from the inside out. Cooked. So they were essentially microwaved.
This has happened.
That's already happened. There have been examples. There was they had off limits areas in the Arctic regions for a while because of the missing ozone and a missing chunk of the atmosphere. Well, some folks got caught in that, and it was only for about 15 seconds, and they were burnt from the inside out.
Let me ask you, Mike, is the poles more dangerous than the rest of the earth when it comes to this activity, or no?
Yes, because if they with this magnetic flip of the earth, right? We don't have a magnetosphere during that time.
10 days.
Everything has to reorientate itself, and it takes about 10 days for that to happen. right? So we have no protection from the sun, none.
I don't even know.
None.
I mean, this is this has been.
No, that's not a maybe. That's not,
It's going to happen.
That's not fear mongering. That's not anything. But I'm telling you, they know it's about to go chaotic, right?
Yep.
They know it's going chaotic. And even in the chaotic time, in these months that we're about to go through, because it can stay, so long as it's chaotic, various places are going to catch on fire. There'll be spontaneous fires. There'll be people with just hit with high doses of cancer, right? It's not a very good time to go through, right? We know that time is starting to begin. They know that time is starting to begin. And lots of contingencies will begin to go in place because of that. That leaves Earth vulnerable in many different ways, many ways. I mean, beyond any other threat we've ever faced. So we don't need a solar flare. We don't need a CME. We don't need any of that. When it starts to go chaotic, the fires, thank God we have the oceans, but that's only going to protect us for a little while, because once that begins, we'll have a mass evaporation event of the oceans, right? That means fog everywhere. I mean, everywhere.
Fog.
And then, of course, after that, it also means prior to this event, Pastor Paul, prior to the magnetosphere going chaotic, everybody across the entire globe will see auroras. And it won't make sense, because they'll say, well, we didn't have a flare, didn't do this, we didn't have this, we didn't have that. How are we seeing this? It's going to be everywhere, right? This time is coming a little quicker than anticipated.
Well, here's a scripture in Revelation 16 that says in verse 8, and the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch men with fire. And men were scorched with great heat, and they blasphemed the name of God, which hath power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. Is this a pole shift, or is this a magnetosphere shift?
It very well could be. It very well could be, right? The only difference would be this. Just suppose that's another event that's even worse, right, than the magnetic flipping of the poles of the earth. Just imagine.
Okay.
Just imagine.
Okay.
Because God knows we've been through several events already. We've had the Carrington event already.
Yes.
And if all of us had a civilization, if we had civilization like this during that time, all of us would have said, oh, this is biblical, right?
Right.
But we know it was not. We know it was,
no,
one of
it
those
wasn't.
things,
It was early.
but it caused great damage.
Yeah.
World War I and II, people thought that was biblical. I believe it was part biblical, but what I'm saying, these events are working up to it. I believe when what you just read is going to be so devastating, right, that there is no way to describe that.
So,
There's
Mike,
just no way
when
to
do
do
you
that.
see this event? We're talking. We got this.
It's already begun. That process has already begun, and some of the letters, some of the memos that have just come out in the last 2 days, Pastor Paul, the language is quite alarming.
Tell me about this. Can you share any of this?
Well, no, I can't go into the memos.
Okay.
I can tell you a memo has been, there have been some memos issued.
So there's an alert going out.
This is not,
right.
This is not just talk.
Is this going out to the scientific community, or is it going to the governmental agencies?
These are, you could say they're agency level memos that went everywhere, and everybody has to read them, right? Anybody who gets them, they can't ignore them. Let's put it that way.
And this is more than one agency, it sounds like. It sounds like this is scattered out a little bit.
Yeah.
Is this around the world, or just more of an American thing we're talking about?
No, this is a global problem.
Okay.
This is a humanitarian problem of biblical scale, right? That's what it really is. And so, is it survivable? Yes, but it's past Paul. It's going to be not good. Well, could you imagine forest fires? All these forest fires we've had. Can you imagine the entire earth engulfed with forest fires?
Kind of looking like this.
That would be bad.
Yeah,
and so this is what we're facing. So I was quite surprised when I saw the memo. The only thing I could think of was your webinar about this some of these solar events and things. It will, that's good information for people, but we're in a time now, Pastor Paul, where information is good to know. A lot of people will not have that information.
Right.
But it's also time for people to they have to start looking at the realistic consequences of these things. But it's going to burn large portions of this earth.
Well, there's scripture that says that a lot of the trees and the grass is going to burn up. All that's another part of Revelation, but it does say that
nothing can damage the earth like what we're about to go through, right? And again, Nemesis. I'm glad they came out with that name, Nemesis. I believe in a binary system, just binary, right? And so Nemesis is that actual companion star.
Yes.
Right? So Planet X would be what orbits Nemesis.
That's right.
Nemesis is a massive perturber, right? So, but we may never see Nemesis. Some of the satellite objects that go around Nemesis we'll certainly see. And by the way, confirmation 2024 came out with concerning Nemesis and concerning some of the gravitational drag that's been left in the wake of certain objects, right? More details will come out about that.
What is the? Okay, I've heard about this drag. Can you tell us what it means by a drag?
Well, as things go through our solar system, right, they leave these magnetic field windings behind them, right, from their last part of origin. You're talking about large forces, right? Even a small magnet that somebody can hold in their hand, they're going to have magnetic field lines extend out beyond their hand. Right. In this case, those magnetic field lines, they extend for light years. Right. They're so large, things are moving so fast, they extend for light years. Yes.
So you're not talking about a debris field of meteorites and debris.
Well, that's in it too, but we're talking about these magnetic field lines, right?
Yeah.
Remember radiation, right? Exotic radiation,
particles.
All types of things follow those magnetic field lines. They're like highways for energy. And so when this thing begins to continue to go on its path and we hit that point where we hit part of the wake of that, right? We're going to go through some turbulence that just can't be interpreted.
Is that going to shake the earth? Is that what's going to pull us?
Well, Pastor Paul's going to cause some strange things. It's going to mess people's minds up, right? I'll tell you something. The human brain, right? All of us are made from all the elements of the earth. But we also run from the processes of the earth. So if the earth's magnetic shielding is messed up, so will the neurological connections in our mind be jolted a bit, right?
I don't need
this.
That.
This is inevitable, which means as we continue to go on and get closer to this process, a type of insanity will start being in the minds of many people and animals. Right? Animals are going to be going to the wrong spots. Their behaviors are going to change rapidly. People are already noticing this. So these things will escalate. They're going to escalate. There's no way these bodies that we are in, they're intimately tied to the earth, right?
Yes,
intimately tied to the earth. So when the forces of earth change, our bodies are prone to it. It's the same reason women are tied to the cycles of the sun.
Right.
Same reason that men are sensitive, right? We're sensitive to the rotation of this earth. Men are, right? It's a known fact that hormone releases are timed to the rotation of the earth and its wobble. It's just an amazing thing. So
wow.
Our biological systems are intimately tied to the earth and, external parts of the solar system. In the Bible also, doesn't it say that God will strike the riders with madness,
yes,
and the horses with blindness. And
yes.
that is a one of those telltale things, right? Because if the horses are struck with blindness, they don't know where to go. Well,
and the riders with madness.
That's right. In today's language, Pastor Paul, if the horses are stricken with blindness, they have no guidance. Guidance is by GPS, right?
Right. Let me ask you.
Okay, go ahead. If our magnetic shielding goes kaput, the GPS is not going to work. No, by the way, the Air Force owns the GPS satellites for the entire globe. Yeah. So when the enemy fires at us, they use our GPS systems. Just so you guys know that.
We should be able to shut that down. Let me ask you a question. Which is a deeper threat? Deep state or deep space? Right now.
Well, I still think deep space. Here's why.
Okay.
Here's why I think deep space.
Okay.
The establishment, right? It doesn't matter how strong anybody thinks they are. No one is going to overstep the will of the living God.
Amen.
Satan has to be permitted. We can only breathe by God's grace and blessing. If the Lord ever said, well, that's the end of that person, well, no breath is going to enter into that person. That's going to be the end of that, right? So that I'm not really moved by what man can do. I'm not, because I've seen the Lord in action. Suppose some small, tiny rock about the size of a pool cube, right?
Okay.
Hits the wrong satellite, Pastor Paul.
That's a problem.
There's half those satellites don't have enough fuel to maneuver any more times. So if their orbit is interrupted by anything, it's going to be like a ping pong table up there, and it's all coming down here. And we already have even right now today there are 3,600 objects. They are deorbiting right now. So the Air Force Command has to deal with this on a continuous basis, right?
So you're saying satellites that are slowly going to fall to the Earth?
Oh, you better believe it. There are 3,600 right now that are marked. They're being watched, and they're coming down, right? So they have to deal with all this. More and more are on the list. They will be on the list, and they will be coming down. This is a daily thing. This is believe it or not, every single week. The Earth is under this almost like a death cry, right? In other words, if Air Force Command messes up, half this world is going to die.
I mean,
if they mess up, if somebody goes to sleep, half this world is going to die. That is a job of great responsibility, because if they mess up, it's nothing else matters, right? We know what's coming next. We know exactly what's coming next. There will be a correction. Something will happen. And Pastor Paul, with some of the disclosures, some of the talk that's happening right now with the heavens, with the conditions of Earth, with the natural fires that are coming, and with the magnetosphere, we're about to go through a pretty rough time. Plus, several terrorist organizations they keep saying they're here in America.
Yeah,
they keep confirming.
Well, they keep coming over across the southern border.
And they're ready to act. Well, when I mean here, here's what I mean.
Okay.
There have been some legitimate confirmations of terrorist organizations who are now set up in America and ready to strike. They're ready to set the big Satan on fire. They're already here. So we're going to go through some things we did not expect. My hope is that they don't continue to succeed to turn Americans against Americans. America's one big household. It is a big household, and we have a diversity of people in America. If people don't want to be in the house, then send them back to their own house or something, right? But they're trying to take the household, Pastor Paul,
I know,
and turn each room against, each room, so they can tear the house down from within. And sad to say, it's working. It's working. We have weather coming. They're not warning people about the fires. They're not warning people about the floods. They're not warning people about the sinkholes.
Well, but
the sinkholes are coming back.
Okay, tell us
coming
about
back with a vengeance. The ground is too saturated, Pastor Paul. We have magma at the lower portions of the earth on the move, right? Yep. Iceland is the last place on earth anybody would ever want a volcanic eruption. There's a secret to Iceland a lot of people don't know about.
Here's the picture of it. I got a picture of Iceland for what just happened.
That's only the first layer. You know that, right? These eruptions are only the first layer of many. There are a few dozen layers. And it's connected, right, to the Atlantic fault. It's also connected to the crack that's open in the Atlantic Ocean that's spewing up nickel.
You've been talking about that. Yeah, you've been talking
Pastor
about
Paul,
it. You mean you're saying this volcano is running, connect? Oh, no, it's spewing out that nickel at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean?
That Iceland, right? Yeah. Iceland essentially is an indicator of an impending event that's not going to reverse. Right. So just Iceland will be when I said this back in the year 2000, if Iceland ever goes, it's going to be the doom of many different places, because the Atlantic, many people, they may not know the Atlantic is cracking open. Every day it is cracking open. It is spewing up things. Right. And when you start to look at some of the real, we're talking about the real deal here, not this internet stuff. But the real deal, when you start to look at some of the graphs and some of the some of the mapped conduits from Iceland to that Atlantic crack, you realize they're one and the same system. That's what you start to realize.
Okay.
Iceland, by the way, has, you know how Yellowstone is, right?
Yes.
So think about at least, I'm going to give a count, about 36 Yellowstones stacked on top of each other. That would be Iceland.
Well, yeah. Then why are we worried about Yellowstone? Iceland's gigantic.
That would be it. It's right. It's multi-layered. And it goes deep down into the earth. And some of the main channels go right there to Iceland, right? Iceland has gone off before, a long time in the past, and it caused a black volcano. Two black volcanoes to form out of the Atlantic. So people should expect to see, number one, a new landmass coming up in the Atlantic Ocean, period. Right? That's unavoidable. But that is going to come up abruptly.
What
right?
about Italy?
There will be some tectonic shifting because of Iceland.
Okay.
If it continues, there's going to be some tectonic
So
shifting.
you're saying there's going to be some earthquakes coming?
Oh, some more than earthquakes. You're talking about land masses that are just simply unstable, right? In fact, I know I told some people the other day, I'm going to have to sit down, I'm going to have to do my due diligence and really chart this out based on some of the approved information. So I got a hold of some of the folks who have the actual imagery graphs. I'm getting a hold of those imagery graphs. This is something that everybody should know about this.
I remember,
this is something
Mike,
everybody should know about.
You showed us a map of the water eventually, the crustal flooding.
Yes.
And you also had a map one time. You showed us the 6 hotspots of the Earth.
Yes.
So could you put together this map? Can you be able to put this together that we'd be able to show these folks this
everything?
Yeah,
yep.
I mean,
I sure will.
Yeah.
I'm going to get the actual graphs. In some cases, I was not able to use the actual. The actual
they may not give you permission.
Photographs and things itself, right?
Yeah.
So I had to have a kind of like a overlay of it. But this time I need the actual information, and because of its status, I guess you could say, it's not quite in any government's hands.
I see.
And that's what's going to allow me to get my hands on quite a few things. But people need to know about this because this will threaten every single. Besides some of the ice sheets that are breaking, that, by the way, could break off at any moment now.
Oh, we hear about that in this. We're going to hear about that in this post-shift webinar. So,
right.
We're going to hear about
now
that.
Now we have this Icelandic problem, and some of the Atlantic instabilities could really cause some crustal shifting, immediate crustal shifting. Right. So if people can see it, they'd understand the system better. They'd be well informed on what it is, because the next thing people start saying, where do I go? How do I get away from this? When is it going to do this? So I don't, that's something that all of us can come to a conclusion to. But it's a very big system, and they're not this, you can't find that info anywhere, save the stacking of those calderas. I believe that if you can do this quickly and go to, I believe they published some information back in the 88.
Okay.
I think it was 88. So you have to go on Google and filter your searches to find it in 88, or it's going to give you a bunch of theorized nonsense.
What am I looking for?
Well, it's Iceland. Iceland's internal structure, its internal magma structure. And I believe they had those stacked on top of each other. I believe they had that. So, anyway, I'm going to have to get that together. That's something everybody needs to know about. These eruptions are going to continue to happen, right? They're going to continue to happen, like I said before.
Yeah. I want to also ask you about Italy. I'm only throwing this in because people have inundated me with questions. Italy, Naples. Should people get out of Naples? What's going on there, Mike? I mean,
I can't tell anybody they should move. What I can tell you is this: Italy has a very dangerous monster below it, and at some point, right, Pastor, at some point, and it's going to be in the near future, because we don't live in a time where there's going to be a bunch of years after all this stuff we just owned.
No.
That entire coastal lip is going to be consumed. That's a very big volcanic system in Italy. Now, their scientists are not going to warn anybody, because if they do, they're going to go to jail.
Well, of course.
If
Or
they get it
worse.
wrong, if they get the dates wrong, they're going to jail.
Yeah.
So I will tell everybody that's an active system. It's showing signs of massive activity, and that people have to really seek the Lord for their answer.
Amen.
I'm not the Lord. They
No.
have to seek the Lord for that answer, especially people with families. But whatever you do, don't do it out of fear, right? Do it out of sobriety. That
Yeah.
means stand up for the value system that you have and go forward with your decision, and do not look back.
Right.
But don't make a decision based off some person's
No.
ideology.
You got to
Don't do
know
it
in your
because of
heart.
me.
You
That's
got
right.
you got to have a little talk with Jesus, and know for sure that God is leading you and directing you, not based on just only what someone else says.
That's right.
You know, God speaks to everyone, and God has a purpose for everybody's life. Some need to weather the storm. Some need to flee from a storm.
That's right.
Some are going to perish in a storm. I don't know what to tell anyone but to seek God for themselves. Right, Mike?
The Lord will guide. Amen, Pastor Paul. He will guide.